There's nothing finer to me than to be on the water when that sun comes peeking in under that Carolina sky in the Lord's creation, ripping some lips on my favorite waters, taking blind hog adventures with some of my best buddies.
All right, guys, welcome back to Blind Hog Adventures podcast. This is Corey Furlow. Great to have you. I'm here with one of my best buddies and my co-host, Gaston King. And believe it or not, we have got the Popping Cork man himself here, Austin Hall. It is a great story we're going to tell you guys today, and it's not a story, it's actually fact of kind of how we came to be as just friends and confidants, how we came to get to know each other, and it's an amazing story in the Lord. It's an amazing story in fishing, and it's just an amazing story in where we are today and how this has just come to be fruition. And if I understand right, this is actually the first podcast that you've actually really got down and shared the Redline rigs behind it, how it got going, how it came to be, and just is that right, Austin?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've talked to a lot of people, met a lot of people, and kind of shared our story face to face with some people. But this is it. It's first podcast.
Well, we're making history.
Debut.
And so when I tell you that we're going to try to bring people on, today is the first day of fall. We're actually recording this on the first day of fall. So it is September the 22nd, the first day of fall. We are going to drop this at the 1st of October. So literally it is popping cork fishing season. You can't get any better than that. So we're trying to be up to date. We're trying to make sure things are relevant. And so, Austin, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit and kind of just give us a little bit of your history. Give us a little bit of Redline Rigs history, and then honestly, we're going to I guess that'll kind of feed into the story, honestly, of how we all came to know each other, and this all kind of started some years, a couple of years back into this moment, which is awesome. So why don't you take it from here, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, just thank y'all for having me. I still consider myself a nobody in this world. There's a lot of people that I look up to in the saltwater fishing industry, and growing up, this was my love. I loved fishing. I grew up in the bass fishing world, and would go to the Outer Banks every October with my family, and grew up on piers and surf fishing and everything. And that kind of feeds into kind of where really we got started. Some people may know, some people may not, but this is kind of a love for me, a passion, a side business, I guess.
Yeah. What is your full-time job?
I'm a full-time fireman here in North Carolina. And so we were sitting at the fire station one day and talking to another one of my buddies that loves saltwater fishing. And he had just gotten back from Portsmouth Island. And he got back and he said, man, I want to figure out a way to build the double bottom rigs, like you fish on the pier and surf. Yeah. He said, I want to figure out how to make double bottom rigs and consistently make them the same, look good. So we sat there at the fire station one day and kind of had a slow day, and we sat there and designed or looked up YouTube videos and basically put together built a jig to be able to make these bottom rigs, same loop size, same everything every time. And I think before the end of our shift that day, I think that I had built over 50 rigs just sitting there. I was having a blast.
Yeah.
Thought it was the coolest thing ever. And came home, brought that jig home with me, and sat there in the recliner at home and built more. Just couldn't stop. Was having a blast. And, told my wife about it, and called my dad, called my brother, and I said, hey, look, we're never going to have to buy these rigs another day in our lives.
Yeah.
I've got you.
Look, if you can save a penny, you can save a penny, and if you figure something out, that's awesome.
So what I'm hearing is you were getting a lot of work done at the firehouse.
Yeah, a lot of work. This was in between, all the hero stuff.
This is probably during your breaks and during stuff like that, union breaks and stuff.
Absolutely.
Of course, like we all do. Yeah. Okay.
This was in between all the heroic stuff.
That's right.
But yeah, so built a lot of them and was having a blast. I actually ordered some floats and different hooks and different things like that. Built some up, and next thing you know, I had just a surplus of bottom rigs everywhere. Right. Anyway, sitting at the house one night, my wife, she said, "Why don't you put them out on Facebook Marketplace and just see what happens?"
Yeah.
Put them out there and sold a couple of them, and I really, to this day, can't really tell you why I decided to, but I was like, hey, I'm going to put a name to this thing. Yeah. Just whatever. Thought of the thin red line for the fire department.
That's right.
And we were making rigs, so that's where kind of the name Red Line Rigs came from, and it took off. We sold.
So God's hand was in it from the very beginning.
It was nothing but God. This was not intended to be a business. This was not intended to be anything other than a hobby. It was as simple as a comment that my wife made, said, "Hey, just put it out there and see what happens."
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, so I didn't mean to interrupt you there,
go ahead.
But if people listening and they're probably listening to us for getting used to us for the first time, Gaston actually is not I would call it a full-time charter captain, right? You have a second, I call it we all have full-time jobs.
Sure.
We all love fishing. And this is what brings us together. And so when you're seeing us doing this isn't because, I got to have this because I got to have my pay. Now, some people are out there pushing, whether it's a product, pushing a certain brand, they're doing whatever because that is their livelihood. We're actually doing this all. And whether it's Kingfisher Charters, right, you're doing it because you want to teach people how to fish. And it's a love of yours. And you're carrying people that may not be on the water. I work with other veterans. I'm a veteran myself, Army veteran with the 82nd Airborne, and proud to do that. And I work with other veterans, and so I actually do that on my Monday through Friday, and then I'm on the water whenever I can, like a lot of people listening today. So I just wanted to throw that out there for people that may not know, well, these guys are just doing this or pushing this or whatever because of X, Y, and Z. No, this is real life. It's as much as it comes.
Well, it's a passion for us, and I think our goal, and hopefully you hear this and understand, but you'll hear it in our voice that it's a passion. It's something we love.
That's it, and that's the thing when it's a passion of yours, and we've all been there where you've gone through things that you've had to do, and when you go through things that you have to do, it becomes mundane, or it almost becomes despised. And when you get something that is just a love of it, and actually a little bit of a release, it just makes a difference. I think all of our listeners out there most of them are going to be able to relate to that.
Absolutely, and it just, that's a perfect segue into kind of the next part of our story, really. Like I said, we sold quite a few of the bottom rigs, and we kind of expanded on different rigs. We were tying some of the Lupton rigs and the Hatter-style fish finder drum rigs, and we started tying some of those, selling some of those, and it just kind of grew from there. We're over 4.5 years into this business. And still to this day, I don't take any money from the business.
Right.
The money does not pay me, or the business does not pay me. It's all rolling right back into it, and that has allowed us to come out with new products. That's allowed us. We've never intended for it to try to get anybody rich. This is not a money thing for any of us. This is a hey, I don't want it to end because I'm having fun.
Well, and you shared with me, and I know I shared with Gaston, we were all talking about it, and you'll get to this because, you love giving back. And
Absolutely.
That's one thing about you. And so when I was just, all right, so we're here in Eastern North Carolina, CTO is a big thing. A lot of people's kids are involved with it. What do? I call up my buddy and I say, you know what, they've got a lot of underprivileged kids here that are involved with this. Hey, man, any way you could help me out and try to hook some of these kids up that may not have this otherwise, I'll kick in, whatever. First thing he said, no, this business is here to give back to God, to give back to those kids around that may not can do that. What do you need? And that is unique. That is not, I'll give you I'll give you a percentage, but you got to buy this. No, how can I help you?
Right.
And I'm not saying you can do that for everyone. I'm not trying to pick, but I'm just saying, when you say that, I can say firsthand, and I hope people who know me know, I just don't feed lines and I don't give unwarranted compliments, but that was something I was just like, wow, I didn't expect that.
Well, and that's I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was that kid that had that fire burning inside of me for the outdoors. Like I said, I grew up bass fishing. I grew up pan fishing. I grew up deer hunting. I grew up saltwater fishing. I love the outdoors. This is the outdoors, and I'll get more to this here in a minute, but the outdoors is where I feel closest to the Lord. Exactly. And I feel like that's where that's something that He's given me. He's given me a love for that. So at any point in time where I can look into the eyes of a young person and see that fire in their eyes, if I have a chance to fuel that fire and ensure that flame don't go out, that they can continue to build on that passion even more, and if I can give them the tools and equipment to be able to do that, that's what I'm here for. Like I said, this has never been a money thing. So, but kind of getting back to the history, we kept reinvesting. We came out with some jig heads with some pretty generic molds, and got hooked up with some different people that were kind of guiding us in the right way. And I really don't know why I had the urge to do it, but I just kind of really looked at a popping cork one day and said, you know what, I'm gonna build one, and I'm gonna build it my way. Tested a bunch of different things. I mean, the first versions, the initial versions that we put together, popping corks are pretty simple contraption. But
not all are made the same, though.
They're not, and having the right components is absolutely key. And so we went through a lot of different versions, did a lot of different testing, and came out with the first versions. Sold a lot of those. Again, put the money back into it, and we kind of got to a point where we were, for one, Todd Willis with Noose River Bait and Tackle before he passed. That man will hold a special place in my heart and in this business for as long as I live, and as long as the Lord allows this business to grow. He was the first one to look at us in the eyes and give us a chance.
And I can see in your eyes it means a lot, man. I know it's not running on a video, but
right.
I can just see in your eyes how much that means to you. And I'm gonna throw this plug in there. This will be dropping the 1st of October. Todd Willis, like I said, was that owner of that, and they do a memorial tournament in his honor or in his memory for his son Colton. The third Saturday in October every year. If you go on the Todd Willis Open on Facebook, you actually can register there, and you can go and fish. It's $150 for the team, and all that money goes into a trust for Colton when he is older. I'll be down there. I've already registered. They opened up registration maybe the first of the week, I think, and as you register, that's kind of the cast-off order, but it's not about that. It's a 4-fish trout tournament that is about basically just showing appreciation, showing love for Colton and his mother, and just carrying on that legacy. So before I forgot, I just wanted to put that in there, like I said, and put that out there.
Absolutely. No, Todd and anybody that's listening to this that is familiar with this region of North Carolina and the fishery down here, anybody that lives down here, anybody that has visited down here, more than likely you've heard and know the name Todd Willis, and there's a reason behind that. It's because he had that same mindset of growing his business while giving back and while helping others. And like I said, I walked into the old shop, that little hole-in-the-wall shop there, and I walked in there and had a couple popping corks. I showed it to him. He gave me some advice, went back, tweaked some things, sent him some pictures, talked to him a little more. Next thing you know, the man orders, I want to say like 100 corks or something. And to me, a brand new person, that's insane.
So he didn't just do a little bit like get out my shop.
He gave us a really big shot.
Yeah.
And he's the one who really kind of catapulted it and came back home excited. That's where it kind of took a turn with being a kind of hobby and a super just small type thing to, hey, what are we doing here? Me and my wife prayed for months there at that time period about what do we do with this thing?
Yeah.
Do we keep it just kind of a fun side gig type thing, or do we really try to grow it and try to grow it as a business? We prayed and we prayed and prayed and just couldn't really get a clear answer. And then finally one day I just kind of woke up and I said, I'm looking at it wrong. I'm looking at it as do I continue to go and try to grow this business? And I woke up that morning and I said, I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a singer. I'm not really anything of that sort. This is a ministry for me.
Yeah. And
I try to stress that to people because he opened my eyes up to it. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's the firehouse, whether it's the VA, whether it's fishing or whatever it is, that's a ministry. You don't have to be standing behind a pulpit to be able to reach people for the Lord.
That's like this podcast.
Right, yeah.
This podcast is like you say, it's an educational ministry.
That's right. And the Lord was able to take something I'm already passionate about, turn it into a ministry while allowing us to meet a ton of people through the business, and so we kind of went with it. We took off, and it has blossomed from there. We've completely redesigned our jig heads and got our own molds and everything. I mean, we've done the whole 9 yards to where everything is specific to Redline rigs. It's our own, and really took off with it. Yeah. We've got retailers in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. We've actually got one in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So I mean, and here we are. You know, I'm somebody that loves to fish.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Well, y'all can't see it, but I say this feller to your right is kind of looking kind of suspect in the Gaston King. How did you get to know this guy here? Because this is I think where, like I said, it shows right on down the thing of how God works. How'd you meet this fella?
So I'll start it and then I'll let you kind of take over. But so a good friend of mine actually was in the military as well, and one thing about Captain Gaston is he's huge on veterans. He's huge on being able to take them out, get them on the water, and show some appreciation for their sacrifices and being able to give back to them in that aspect. And one of my buddies was lucky enough to share the boat with him one day, and conversation got started, and I think kind of the rest is history. So I'll let you kind of fill in the gaps.
Yeah, well, I'll start off by saying the fishing was kind of tough that day. My memory serves right. It's we caught a lot of fish, but they were all small. But we just had the conversation. I mean, you know, there's one thing you'll learn on this podcast from us is we're going to talk about things we believe in. And the number one thing for me is a popping cork. It's very effective. It's easy to fish. I have people get on the boat and we just catch a ton of fish. But I was having an issue with a competitor's cork. It was getting foul all the time. I reached out to Austin here. He sent me a couple samples. It's very nice of you to do that.
Absolutely.
Used those, had no issues, caught a ton of fish. The sound on these corks is absolutely amazing. But I mean, one thing led to another. I've known Austin now, 4 years, something like that. I mean, I came on in pretty early on for you.
Sure.
And I've been throwing redline rigs ever since. I mean, I cannot tell you how many fish, trout, have been in my boat thanks to a redline rigs popping cork. It's an incredible product. Austin's a great guy. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and I hope that continues. I think, you know, as long as Austin keeps making that cigar dinner bell, I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah, that's Captain Gaston's baby, is that cigar dinner bell, and that's another thing. You know, I rely a lot on these guys. You know, I don't have my captain's license. There again, I'm just an angler. I still don't look at myself as a businessman or really anybody that knows a whole lot of anything. And so I think it's just the coolest thing to have somebody with captain in front of their name or somebody that lives down here and that fishes. I love being able to learn from them.
Yeah.
And from all of our pro staff guys. And so being able to, at this point in time, being able to have Captain Gaston, and I think we had Captain Noah Link in Harker's Island. And the first pro staffer that we ever brought on is Captain, or I'm sorry, not Captain. He's the first mate on the Sea Toy out of Oregon Inlet, North Carolina, Ross Tolson. And these guys have become family, and I mean that wholeheartedly. It's that's the coolest thing about any of this is just the people that the Lord's allowed us to meet and being able to learn from them. So he's been a huge part in tweaking these things over the years and dialing them in, and they are what they are today because of the people that surround them.
Yeah.
Well, and I can say this too, is you're from a small company perspective, you're not going to get anybody that cares more than Austin.
No.
I mean, I can tell you from the day I came on, it was, what are your ideas? What do you think we can do better? How can we tweak this? I mean, I'm telling you, Austin loses sleep. He's caused me to lose sleep. And it's not my company, but, you know, I think, and I tell people this all the time, if you have somebody that cares about the product, cares what he's doing, it's going to be a better product. Austin will do whatever it takes to make sure that people on the water using his products are catching fish. And I think that's a huge thing that people need to understand is behind the scenes. You go into a tackle shop, you see a pack of redline rigs, you pick it up, you buy it, you go fish with it, you catch fish. But there's so many things that go on behind the scenes that people don't understand. And I think from a small business perspective, it's incredible to see that from my eyes and what he's put into the company.
Maybe care too much sometimes. I mean, I think
100%.
I think my wife would agree that there really truly has. I know it's kind of a saying or whatever you want to say, but there really truly has been sleep that has been lost over this thing. I mean, some of making sure I want to make sure that if I'm going to put my name on it and what we've built, I want to make sure it's right. I want to treat people right. I want to ensure that if it's something that I'm not going to fish with, then I'm not going to let you fish with it either. But it's been fun to go through all this with these guys, and like I say, the caring part is just trying to do what's right by people. And Captain Gaston, he picks on me all the time because I'll call him and say, hey man, I got an idea. I got an idea for this. I got an idea for that. Or he'll call me and say, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, hey, I'm building this for one of the upcoming shows. And he's like, you guys
should see the sketches I've got that he's texted me. We went through a stretch where we texted every day for a long time. Yep. And when I say losing sleep, I'm not joking. I would read his message, put my phone down, and go to sleep because I just couldn't text him.
Yeah.
I was, because I know if I respond, he's coming right back.
That's right. You probably wake up to about 15 more texts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, notepads of dates and ideas, and that's what I'm saying. It never quits for Austin. I think it's incredible. His drive for this is truly something.
And I can totally agree, because that is honestly how I got to come into the fold. So I was a volunteer firefighter, as many people are. I was able to for a number of years there for our local community, and so literally I had started using some Popping Corks because I really liked it. I was just trying different things, and I saw Austin's actually pop up. I forgot where I was at or what I was even doing, but I saw it pop up as redline rigs, and it was firefighter owned, firefighter built, North Carolina based. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this dude a try. And so I ordered. A couple of days later, they come in a box with a handwritten note. Thanks, man, for ordering these. Appreciate you. And so I gave them a try. And I love the oval. Now you're going to see Gaston. He loves the cigar style, and he's converted me. I am a hardcore cigar style guy now. But I am just I love the oval ones, and I'd go out there and I could just fish them, man. And in the fall it was just unlike anything I had done. But I caught so many trout on them, and I'm part of the Salt Strong family as well. So I was putting in the fall, of course, those bigger shrimp down on the coast. I was down around the Swan Quarter area down in Pamlico, and those bigger shrimp are in there. So I was using the Salt Strong prawn, that bigger shrimp, and man, I was catching this really nice quality trout. And so I kept catching so many that the wire was bending. And the problem was I was just, like I said, we were tearing them up. And so I ended up doing on my YouTube channel, it's Blind Hog Adventures with Corey Furlow. I did a critique, and I had just really started the channel. I didn't really think nobody paid no mind to it, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna put it out there. And so I took a 4 Horseman, I took a Redline Rigs oval, and I can't think of that one that comes from Walmart anyway. Cajun Thunder. Yeah. And what I had
I'll never forget it.
Yeah, okay. So I had took a Cajun Thunder, and because the thing I love about the Redline Rigs cork is they use good components, brass components, and all that stuff, and it creates a different kind of clack, unlike any other cork. And so when you cast out there and pop that cork, when it clacks, give it a few seconds, and man, I could almost count it down. It was going to disappear because here come a trout. Well, when the wire bent, they wouldn't do that clack because it wouldn't fall. So I took a Cajun Thunder because everybody's bought one from Walmart. They're cheap. You can get them, handfuls of them because they're cheap. Let's be real about it. And I basically had took some split shot and put on the bottom of it and made it because they wouldn't clack. So I had made it so it would make a clacking sound. And so basically I did that in my little critique on one of my first videos. And I said, dude, if you get your wire right, I'm telling you will be able to blow anybody out. Well, I didn't know this guy from Adam. I really didn't. And next thing I know, Austin reaches out, and And so I guess Gaston saw it and some other people, and they tagged Austin in it, and he reaches out. And I did not realize the amount of sleep that I had made this man lose by doing that and not critiquing him. He did not like the fact that I had got a product that he felt could be improved upon. And it wasn't a, hey, I'm mad at you, why did you talk junk about my product? It was, hey, man, I've got a concept. Can I send you some? And you give me honest feedback because I know you'll do it. You've already done it once. And so, man, that's honestly how we really met and got going a couple years ago.
Yeah. You did them the first to third and kind of ranked them. And I remember I wasn't satisfied with us finishing second.
No, I still put you second.
We went second, and I remember I wasn't satisfied with that.
Cajun Thunder.
And I remember I reached out and I was like, hey, man, thank you so much for including us. It was just a huge deal to get on YouTube and see somebody that had taken the time to include us amongst all these huge names that we're chasing, that are established in what they do, and that we're looking to be like or to be better than or whatever. I still look up to those companies, and to be even considered with that, I was like, man, this is awesome. And then I got to the end of the video and was like, we finished second. What can we do? How do we, any kind of feedback that I ever get from customers, even if it's just the smallest thing, it's like I want to see if it's possible to fix this or enhance it. And there again, we're not in this for the money. We're not in this to make bunches of money. We're not in this to try to sell cheap stuff. We're in this to try to make quality fishing tackles for either the serious angler or the weekend warrior or just any angler that comes out here to our coast. We want to make sure we're putting tackle in their hands that's the real deal.
Yeah. So it wasn't long after that you sent me those, and I mean the wire you'd put a new wire in. I mean my man went through the whole thing of putting.
We went to work.
Both of these guys went to work, and I mean they tested new wires, new tensile strengths, new different kinds. And when they sent me the first one, I pulled it out of the package and I said, I hadn't even through it yet, and I knew you already had it. And but I didn't say anything. I went out and I literally went right back to the same. Now I'm talking about the man saw the video, and within 30 days I had a new cork in my hand, a prototype to try that you guys had sat down and worked that hard on, and I went right back to catching those fish. I'm talking 18 to 22, 23 inch trout, and I was having some days honestly where I was probably catching in that class anywhere from 15 to 30 trout on one cork, and not a single wire bent. Not a single wire bent. And I called him up that night and I said, bro, I don't know what you did, but congratulations. Don't change it. Don't touch it. Yep. And you are number one. I promise. And I'm going to redo my video. And that was, and I'm telling you that. And he said, and I said, that's kind of how this went about. And I was invited to come onto his pro staff, and I was honored to do that. And that's honestly how me and Gaston got linked up, was because I had never really met Gaston. I had never met, him. And so the first time I think we met, man, if I'm not mistaken, was at the Greenville show. I couldn't make it to the Raleigh show, and you had invited me to come out and meet some people, and I said, sure, man, I'd love to do that, and so the Greenville show came around, and we went to that first show, and me and Gaston hit it off, and used a lot of the same setups, and the rest is history from there, man. And we've been tight ever since, and here we are sitting here today. Yeah. So lead us on through, man.
Well, it's just like I said, looking back, it's funny because sometimes it's hard to not live in the here and now and look at where we're at as a business and get stressed about different things or whatever. But sometimes I have to really ground myself and look back at where we've come from, where we started. Not intending for it to be anything at all, other than just a hobby, and there again, nothing but the Lord's been able to use it and get it this far. Then I look at all the people that I've been able to meet through all of this. The amount of knowledge that I've gained because of through the business, just by getting to shake hands with people that I've looked up to for years.
Even at the show, man, I couldn't believe how many people come up to me that watched my videos and were like, man, you put it out there that you were going to be at the show today, and we just wanted to come meet you because you're a regular dude that talks about regular stuff. And I was like, holy cow. Like, you see it, but you don't realize it. And it's humbling. It is very, very
I've got
humbling.
A video on my phone sitting at the house one night that my wife took. And in that video, I'm on the phone talking to Hank Parker because I had sent him some of our new line of corks. So the corks we started out with are called our dinner bell corks. They're our straight wire corks. We enhanced those. That's the ones we were talking about with the stainless steel wire. We kind of beefed those up and got those right. We've also got a line called Defenstigator corks that are 100% flexible stainless steel, nylon-coated stainless steel wire. And so I had sent some of those to him, and he went to Venice, Louisiana on a trip 2 or 3 years ago now, filming for his TV show. And I think he called me on the phone one night, and I didn't know who it was. And when he told me who it was, I'm sitting there like a kid in a candy store. This is somebody I grew up watching on TV that I, for lack of a better term, idolized. This was somebody I looked up to in the outdoor industry just my entire life. And here I am sitting on the couch talking to him, and it was just that was the highlight of this.
And you actually can go on YouTube and see those videos right now. Right?
Yeah, it's on Hank Parker Outdoor Magazine on some of the outdoor I guess apps and streaming networks. But
because I've gone and looked at them, so I know they're up there, and I was like, this is awesome.
He went to Venice, Louisiana, and he called me. He said I was skeptical at first. He said he had caught over 30. Drum that were over 35 inches, and also a Jack Crevalle. I don't remember how much it weighed, but when you see it in that video, it wasn't a small one. All on the same cork.
Cork.
He said, now it don't have any paint left on the cork.
Yeah.
He said,
most of mine don't.
But I can turn right around and go and continue to fish that. Yeah. And he pretty much told me that night. He said, I'll do anything I can do to help you. He was like, you got something here, and that was the coolest thing. It was we want to put out something that works, and something that's good, and something that's quality. And it's one thing to have a lot of your buddies tell you that, but when you have somebody that has Lord knows how much stuff sent to him on a daily basis to try out and test, and then he calls and tells you that, that was just the coolest thing ever. And it's just like you said, it's humbling.
There's an old saying, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, and y'all, we're live, so you have to bear with us. Like I said, we're literally riverside on the Pungo River out here for inspiration. You might even hear a little clacking going around, and that's okay. We got literally water coming up, touching our boots.
King
Tide, that's right. Hey, but you got Mako walking around, the awesome golden lab, so you might hear a little splashing. We are real. But back to my saying, I get off sidetrack. Sorry, I'll get back. But there's a saying that says, show me a man with a beaten down Bible and I'll show you a pretty good life. But I'm going to change it. Show me a cork with no paint on it and I'll show you some pretty good memories too.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you got a cork that ain't got no paint on it, there's some good memories on that. That's cork. Right. You show me one that looks brand new that ain't never had no paint taken off of it. And my wife said taken ain't a word. Taken off of it. Sorry, I am what I am. They had no paint taken off of it. They probably hadn't been hitting. I've had them. That's right. They blow them right out the water. They won't even hit the bait sometimes. They'll hit the cork a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. And we just went fishing together and saw that. I had, 10 or 12?
10 or 12 blow the cork out the water, and we were throwing top water right beside it, and they would not bite the top water, but they were hitting the cork, and you can actually go check that video out.
That's a pretty good segue into, that's kind of the history of us and kind of how y'all got linked together and what we're about, what we stand for.
We're the first day of fall, man, so we're in prime Popping Cork season, so let's get into it, man. Why are they effective, and what can we do about it? Like, what's some tips? What's some tricks? All right, first off, and this, I'm the rookie in this one, so I'm gonna give it to Austin and to Captain Gaston here. Guys, what makes, and I'll tell you what, Gaston sitting over here smiling.
I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go. He's been sitting there. He's ready to go. So, all right, Captain Gaston, what makes Popping Corks so effective? Because I'm telling you, I've never seen nobody that fishes them as dedicated as you, puts your people on them, and y'all come out with, I'm talking about you come out with fish, and I have seen it with my own eyes. I have been on the boat with you. What makes them so effective, man?
When you have the most effective bait, there's no point in changing it. Right now, the creeks, the rivers are absolutely stacked with menhaden. If you close your eyes and listen, you'll hear the menhaden hit and flit on top of the water, and then you pop that cork, and that's the exact same sound.
That's where the clack comes from.
Now, my philosophy on this is a trout is very aggressive. So when he hears that noise, he looks up, and you've got a bait, a soft plastic, whatever you choose to throw. I prefer a 2-inch voodoo shrimp. People talk junk to me all the time, but elephants eat peanuts, and that 2-inch voodoo shrimp will catch 50-inch drum. It'll catch 28-inch trout. Whatever's down there, they will eat that 2-inch voodoo shrimp. But that shrimp is sitting there, and they look up, and it's just right in front of their face. They can't help but want to hit it. And it's just, I mean, that combination for me is absolutely incredible. If you were going to say, all right, you can choose one bait to throw the rest of your life to catch trout, Red Line Rigs Popping Cork, 2-inch voodoo shrimp. It's that easy. I never have to change. If the fish are not biting, I'm saying that the fish are not down there. I have so much confidence in that setup that I can throw it every day wherever I'm at, and I'm going to catch fish.
So when you're throwing that bait, what are you looking for? So if I'm going out there and I mean, let's be real, right? The Pungo River, the Pamlico River, Swan Quarter, the Pamlico Sound. These are big bodies of water, and there's a lot of water. And Salt Strong teaches something, and that's why I love it. It's called the 90-10 rule, where basically 90% of the fish are in 10% of the area, and they're there for a reason. So when we're teaching you about points and places and stuff like that, whatever we're talking about all along this podcast, you can replicate it where you are, because you can take those same things, right? When we're talking about this amongst us right now, right? When Gaston's getting ready to tell us what he's looking for when he goes out there, whatever it might be, look for these things on your chart plotters, on different things, and you can replicate this and then find out where the fish are. So, man, when you're going out there and you're looking for a spot to throw those popping corks, set me up. What am I looking for when I'm looking, whether it's at a map, whether I'm looking at, I pull something up, whatever it is, what do you do?
So the biggest thing off the water, if you're looking at a map, you want to find a cut, a bay, a point. Those things generally have a drop off. They have some change in water depth, and they hold fish. Trout are generally going to sit on some type of drop off. They're going to hold to some form of structure. The biggest thing on the water is live water. And what I mean by live water is the menhaden. You see shrimp jumping. You see mullet jumping. Anything that's a fish that is moving is some form of bait. If you find bait, you're going to find fish.
I call it the three. I call it the 3 B's. You're going to look for bait, busting fish, and birds. Most of the time, if you find feeding birds, bait, and busting fish, that's live water.
Absolutely. And I mean, the fish are going to be there. The predator fish are going to be where their food source is easy to pick off. So that's really the biggest thing you're going to look for. I mean, live water and point. And you'll notice another thing. Let's say you're catching fish on a point that's got 4 to 6 foot of water. Well, if you look down 30 yards and you see another point, another cut, whatever you're fishing, notice the water depth, which way the wind or tide is moving across that point or bay, cut, whatever it may be, and go try to replicate that. And if you get to that point and you say, okay, well, it's 5 foot of water, that's exactly what I just caught fish in, there's more than likely going to be fish at that point as well. So just replicate everything you're doing. That's the biggest thing I tell people is, when I take charters out, when I pull up on a spot, I don't just say, all right, we'll start casting. I say, okay, we're fishing 6 foot of water right here, and the fish are doing this and that. I try to explain why we're fishing somewhere and what we're doing. I want people to understand that, and that way maybe when we get to the next point, in their mind, they're thinking, okay, this looks exactly the same. We're going to catch fish right here.
So if they're in their own boat, or they go back and they take their son or daughter out, or they take out their, whoever that's never been on the water, right? They can replicate those things in their body of water. And it doesn't matter if we've got people coming from the western part of the state or another state coming here to our waters because of just the awesome trout. I mean, if people don't realize it, we're the second largest estuary on the east coast and in the south behind Louisiana. We're right there with the Chesapeake Bay. So us, Virginia, and them, we have as many trophy fish. If you follow Release Over 20 and Speckled Truth and all that, North Carolina is right there, and we have got some of the most pristine waters anywhere in this country, and people are making it a destination. And so northeastern North Carolina is usually one of those sleeper places that, you don't hear much about, but man, there's a lot that offers. And if you can be here, and especially if you live here or you travel here, which we have a large, tourist population that comes here, why not know what you're doing when you go out there to do it, and then you have more success, right? So if you're out there, you found a cut, you found drop-offs, you found all that kind of stuff, what's next?
Well, I want to say this too. A cork, so throw a cork 12 months out of the year. A lot of people say it gets cold, don't throw a cork. No, the fish will bite that cork with a soft plastic under it 12 months out of the year. Another thing too I hear people talk about is you only fish this in shallow water, 6 foot, 8 foot or less. My dad will go and fish a bridge. There's 14 to 17 foot of water with his leader from his cork to his shrimp is going to be 2 foot, and he wears trout out in that much water. So, I understand that people say, well, you got to do certain things this time of year, or it's too deep here. Don't believe that. If there's bait around, fish it. I promise you, it's effective.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is and I'm not tooting our own horn here. No. It's just as a blanket statement. If you've got a good cork, that cork is going to draw them in.
That's right.
Don't be scared, like Captain Gaston said. Don't be scared to fish it in a little deeper water than you may be comfortable with. Also, another thing, when you go to set it up, like he said, I don't know if you caught it or not, but that leader being 24 inches, I don't like to go a whole lot past that just because of the castability of it at that point, trying to keep it from getting fouled up a lot. You don't have to have a 6 foot long leader in 14 foot of water.
Most time 18 to 24 inches is that.
I'm not even that much. I mean, I would say my standard is probably 15 to 18 inches.
That's about what I mean,
really.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things where if you've got a good quality cork that's putting out a good sound the way it needs to be and putting it out at a good volume, it's going to draw those fish in. And just kind of elaborate on what he said is, say those bait fish aren't visible on top of the water. Look for your slicks. Those fish may be feeding on bait balls just under the surface. You might not visibly be able to see those balls of bait. However, if you look if you look at the water and you see a break in the current or a slick on top of the water, if it's in kind of a circular or kind of a grouped orientation, a lot of times that's a ball of bait that's being fed on by a predator fish, whether that predator fish be bluefish.
There's usually 3 of them that put it out. That's right. There's a bluefish, a trout, and a red drum are the main 3 that put out those slicks.
Yep.
And usually it's because when they're eating, the oils are coming through their gills, and that's what's putting the slick up there.
Yep.
And a lot of times, like I said, sometimes you'll even see it. It'll happen when they're digesting the food, and you may come up and bump a school. They'll put up a slick and not even realize it. You haven't scared them off, but you bumped them, and you're like, and you can see it. I mean, you'll have a little chop on the water, and all of a sudden a slick pops up.
Yeah.
It didn't get there by accident. You know what I mean?
And if you look over and you see a slick, but it's more in kind of a horizontal or more in kind of a line formation, a lot of times that can be indicative of a grass line just underneath the surface.
That's
and that
right.
grass line's putting off. Don't go past either one of those.
Yeah.
Fish love structure. They love bait fish, right?
Okay.
That's kind of your 2 main things. Find one of those, and a lot of times fish will be around it. Fish those grass lines. Fish those bait balls.
Fish those docks
Fish
on
those
the edge
slicks,
of the docks, the bridges on the edge of deeper water from shallower water. Those like Captain Gaston just said, those drop offs that are going to have a couple of feet of change there. You don't just need this nice little slope. You don't want a nice little slope that goes down. Let's look at your driveway kind of. If you got a good little drop off, a couple of feet, 2, 3, 4 feet, that kind of does a pretty good drop off over a 50-yard, 25-yard space, that really gives a distance there with some drop off there. Use it, man. I mean, it's a great place to hold fish in the ambush.
Absolutely. Captain Gaston hit on it. Fish this thing 12 months out of the year. Now, the way that you may fish it may be a little different.
Yeah.
Some months you may want to fish it a little faster. Some may want to fish it a little slower. One thing that I can tell people, and we get this question a lot at the shows, is which cork do I use? What's the difference in the shapes?
Depends on who you ask.
It really does.
Because me and Gaston's going to give you 2 different answers.
the way that I break it down for people, just kind of putting it in layman's terms, the way that makes sense to me is our largest cork is our cupped cork. We sell it in the Fence-to-Gator, the flexible, and it's our heaviest. It's our biggest cork. and it's got that concave top to where it is going to put out. Whenever you pop it, it's going to basically
a lot of water.
Chug and move a lot of water. It's going to cause the most commotion. With it being the heaviest, it is the most friendly casting. You know, it's going to cast a lot better. I tell people with those, if you're in maybe some deeper water, if you're in choppier water, or if you are solely targeting red drum. Red drum are territorial. They're very aggressive feeders. They like that loud commotion. Then you've got on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got that cigar cork. That cigar cork is a lot lighter. It's our lightest cork. It's a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more finesse. Shallower water, calmer water. There again, it's some people day to day. You know, I mean, they'll fish it. Like
Why are you pointing at me?
Captain Gaston's going to fish it out there white capping in 30 foot of water. I can tell you that.
The way, like I said,
and he's good at it too, and is going to catch fish.
Absolutely. So the cigar cork, the way I look at it, is shallower water, calmer water. Maybe even clearer water.
Yeah.
A little bit more finesse of an approach. It's not quite as loud and in their face. You're still getting that same sound, but just not quite as loud.
And that oval's that medium.
That oval is that catch-all. It's that medium. You can...
Does color of cork, have you noticed is the color of the cork or any of that stuff?
The only thing I'll say on the color of the cork is that's for somebody's eyes.
Okay, so it's for us.
Personally, I can see the orange better. I have people tell me they can see yellow better.
Okay.
Austin's come out now with a pink cork. It's very similar to the orange, and I can see the pink very well. But yellow for me, once I cast it far, I cannot really see the yellow.
Yeah. And just depends on color spectrum. I'm partially colorblind, so there's certain ones I'm going to be able to.
Here, yeah.
I'm going to be able to see certain
Everybody's
ones.
eyes are different. Absolutely.
Right.
So just take a look for yourself and see what you can see best, and go with that.
So if you got somebody on the boat, Gaston, and you're taking a charter out and you're trying to teach them how to use that cork, all right. So you've got a 30-second rundown before your guys was getting ready. They can't wait to take that thing and chunk it. Give me. How do you tell them guys? This is what I want you to do. Give me a rundown.
It's very simple. I make the first cast. I say, watch me. I throw out, and I pop the cork twice. And you give it a pretty good, if you've ever used a jerk bait, it's almost the same pop. You want that cork to make noise. I get some people that just kind of move it across the top of the water, but you want to make that pop. The whole thing is to make that clack and get those fish to hear that. So that's the biggest thing. Pop it twice, let it sit maybe 2 to 3 seconds or so, and the fish are most always going to hit it when it's sitting there. And never take your eyes off the cork. I don't know how they know, but every time you take your eye off the cork is when they will hit it. And you'll come back and you'll be looking, and your cork is nowhere in sight.
And the reason they're hitting, what's the reason that they're hitting it when the cork's sitting still after you pop it? What's happening to the bait?
Well, after you pop it, the shrimp pops up in the air and then it falls back down. Well, that slow sink to me, I think, is what really grabs them, and you know they try to take that cork to China.
It drives them crazy.
And that's a huge thing to hit on there is what you're putting underneath that cork. Is be careful with the weight. You know, with the cigar corks, you've got to really be careful. That's a lot less flotation there to hold something up. So
that's right.
What I tell people is you're looking at, like you said, that small baby voodoo. It's a 3/16 ounce lead weight on there.
Yeah.
I tell people not to go really above a 1/8. Once you start doing that, you start pulling that cork down a little too much, and you're not getting that full pop out of that cork. Be careful of the weight that you put under each one of those corks. It's also one of those things, and Captain Gaston has really opened my eyes up to it. I was a diehard oval cork guy, and until I started fishing
until the day we caught over 50 in a couple hours,
like we did with us.
Until I started fishing with Captain Gaston, and basically what he showed me and really made sense to me is, especially in your heat of the summer months, especially in your dead of the winter where it's just extremely cold. You look at a lot of these anglers that are fishing mirror lures. They're fishing fat boys. They're fishing jerk baits. Why are they doing that? They're putting something that they can just kind of twitch and pause and keep it in front of their face in that strike zone for the greatest amount of time.
That's right.
It's no different here. If you can go down in weight, and fish that baby voodoo, or fish a 1/8 ounce jig head with one of our siren shad or a hooligan, 3JD, salty bait, whatever the case may be.
I use the prawn junior a lot of times.
Junior,
that's right.
Yeah, any of these baits, if you put it on a 1/16 or a 1/8 ounce jig head, that rate of fall after that pop, you're slowing that down. And what that's doing is it's keeping it in that strike zone for much longer and increasing your chances greatly of that fish reaching up and grabbing it. Right. The biggest mistake that I see, and one thing that like I said, Captain Gaston's opened my eyes up to, is that. I used to always fish a heavier jig head underneath it because I felt like that's what I needed. But what I didn't think about is that with that bait falling that fast, I can fish the cork faster, but I'm also taking it out of that strike zone faster. Yeah. So slow it down, lighter weights, keep it in that strike zone a little bit longer, and I think that's a big thing that people can do. Very simple, but a big thing that people can do to increase their success rate with corks.
Well, another thing, too, is let the cork work for you. I mean, right now we're looking at 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. We've got a little chop on the water.
Yeah, we do.
You don't have to work that cork as much. I mean, you got to think every time that cork rides a wave, that bait underneath is moving. So you can really slow that down and just let the cork do the work for you. You still want to clack it every once in a while because that's really what's going to get them in. But you got to think, if it's riding a wave, it's doing something down there.
Yeah. And it's not like you're. So me, I fish. If I'm not fishing a popping cork or something like that, I love a jerk style bait. I just love it. Whether it's a Salt Strong Tweaker, whether it's a Z-Man, whether it's one of your hooligans, whatever it is, right? I love a jerk style bait. I'll put it on a 1/4 ounce jig head if I'm down toward the Outer Banks and I'm fishing those bridges in deeper water, or here in Belhaven or Leechville, or if anywhere that's got those big drop-offs. If I'm trying to get it in 14, 16 feet of water, well, I'm going to go to a 1/2 ounce, 3/8 jig head, something like that.
Sure.
You're not trying to do that with a popping cork, right? You don't need to get it down that far because that's not your strike zone. And that's the reason that I think a lot of times I always think sometimes bigger's better, and it's not. It's putting it for every situation and what you need it for. And so that's why, like you say, the old saying, what is it you say about the elephants and the peanut?
The elephants eat
There you
peanuts.
go. So, I'm not telling you that I'm the first one that'll throw a 5-inch jerk shad or something like that and put it across the bottom if I feel that's where they're sitting at, and I mark them on electronics. But if I'm seeing bait on the top of the water and I've got my situations and I'm seeing those fish move, or I'm in 2 to 4 foot, 6 foot of water, I don't have to be on the bottom. Those fish aren't going to be most of the time on the very bottom. Sure. So, I mean, that cork with that 18-inch leader is doing just fine with that 8th ounce or that little voodoo or a prawn junior or whatever. Something that's going to work for what we need.
Yeah, I mean, if you roll over and you see on your fish finder that there's a lot of fish holding to the bottom, I don't solely fish a popping.
Yeah,
I like catching fish. I mean, tie on a jig head, tie on a soft plastic, whatever the case may be, your confidence bait.
That's right.
But if you're seeing those fish are suspended, or you're seeing those fish are on top, or whatever the case may be, a lot of times there again you can call those fish up to you even if they are in a little bit deeper water. And just to elaborate on that real quick. All of this is just, it's a lot of information. I know we're throwing it at you, and there's a lot of good products, a lot of good companies out there. There's a lot of good baits. There's 100 different ways to do this. The biggest key component to all of this is confidence.
That's right.
You have to have confidence in what you're throwing. Now, with that being said, I encourage you, whether it's a Redline Rigs, a Four Horsemen, whatever cork you like, Billy Bay, whatever cork you pick up and can get your hands on, throw them. Give it time. Give it that opportunity to try to get your confidence. But when you hit the water, the biggest thing that you can do is have confidence in what you're throwing. It really, truly does make the world a difference.
Well, I can tell you this, too. Corey and I joked about this when we did the show. We sit here and we buy all these baits. I mean, we go to the shops and we spend hundreds of dollars, and then when the fall gets here, I throw 3 different baits.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what works. I know what I have confidence in, and it's just the colors. I've always said colors are for fishermen. Now, don't get me wrong. Clear water, muddy water, you can obviously pick different colors, but they make the colors for fishermen, and we spend the money on it. But you get your confidence bait, something that you are familiar with, that you feel like you work better, you catch fish on and throw it, whatever that may be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm probably, and if y'all have watched my videos, you know I will change a bait in a heartbeat. So I'm not the 3 bait guy. I'm a different. Now colors aren't as much. I'm a dark water, dark bait. I'm a early morning darker bait. I'm a I do different things that I have confidence in. But the style of bait is my confidence. It's not always the color of the bait. So that's where make sure you're using the style of bait that you can fish, that you have confidence in. I use a lot of AM fishing products, right? I love AM fishing on a jig head, man. And that thing, I can fish it 5 different ways, but it's not always the color. It's the kind of bait and the time of day and stuff like that, and it just depends on where I'm at. And I'm a trailered boat, and I know Captain Gaston is too, and he does most of his here, I call it in the Pungo region. But I'll tell you, I'm all over. I am from anywhere from north Albemarle Sound, Outer Banks, right on that, you name it, I'm a hit it. Swan Quarter, I go all over. And so it just depends on where I'm at. But what I have found is, like you say, this time of year, from now until probably mid-December, until that water starts really getting cold, you cannot go wrong with a popping cork. Try it. It's one of the first things you can try. It's one of the quickest ways you can see if there's fish or not there. And then after it, if they're not biting it, then you're going to have to do one of two things. Look and see why they're not biting it, if they're in a different place in the water column, or you're going to have to move because they're not there. One of the two is probably going to happen. And so, I see people fish mirror lures under popping corks because they're not having to sit there and keep worry about, am I twitching it at just the right time to keep it in the strike zone or in whatever, and is the sink rate doing right, am I counting too fast or too slow? So it works for all kind of purposes. I mean,
and it's just like a top water. It gets to almost where it's an addiction. It is, to me, this may be a controversial statement, it is the closest thing to a top water bite that you're going to get.
And I hate top water, but I love a popping cork.
Because it's visual.
And it is. It is.
You sit there, you pop it twice, and in your mind, you're visualizing that bait sinking. And then when that cork just gets yanked under and disappears, man, that heart skips a beat.
It takes me back to my childhood because I grew up with the old red and white, the old red and white bobber with a worm underneath it, and I'm sitting there watching it, and what do we do, man? We're sitting there watching, and that fish starts playing with it, and the little panfish play with it, and all of a sudden it's gone. Oh, yeah. But now that don't happen most of the time with these fish we're fishing with now on the inshore saltwater. When they hit it, that cork's going to China. It's going most of the time. Yeah. I ain't gonna say your little croaker and pinfish and stuff won't play with it, and that's aggravating. But most of it is going to be when they take it. You're going to. To me, my heart races and my mind goes back to those times of growing up and fishing and stuff like that. And
that is one of the coolest things that we did with the new Fence-Tigator corks. Is we've got the flexible wire, we've got the all brass components, we've got it completely, quality, durable, this, that, and the other. One of the coolest things, and it was kind of a last minute throw in there, is we've got a huge glow in the dark bead there on top that you can charge with your cell phone with a flashlight, headlamp. We actually sell UV, Redline Rig UV lights that people can charge it with, and it allows you to fish that early morning, late at night, middle of the night, whenever you want to fish. It allows you that opportunity to maintain that visual contact. Yeah. It is a very, very visual way to fish, and that's half the fun of it. That's right. So it just allows that. So.
But, y'all, I just hope this has become some information you can use as we get ready to wrap up, because we got some weather coming in, and we didn't expect that.
You guys are hearing some noise.
You're hearing noise, and that's called rain on a hot tin roof. And so, but what we're going to wrap up, hey, don't tune out yet, because we got something Austin wants to offer to you guys for saying thank you for listening, and we do too. From now and until the end of the year, if you guys want to use a code, think about this. If you go on Austin's website, Austin, tell them where can they go to order your tackle. I know that they can go to local bait shops here. And what local bait shops first?
So locally, we've got here in the Belhaven, Washington area of North Carolina, around the Pamlico Sand, we've got Eastside Bait and Tackle. We're getting an order together now for Greenville Marine in Greenville, so they'll be fully stocked up with our corks here. And then you've also got Easy Bait and Tackle as well. CB's is right here as well, right on the river. So we're getting them stocked up. There's quite a few retailers. A lot of those can be found on our websites. I'm a little behind, so I need to update that and get some of those newer ones put on there. But if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll try to find a retailer close by.
Yeah.
If there's not one close by, you can always go to our website, www.redlinerigs.com. We've got a full complement of all of our products there. Simple checkout, and we try to get stuff shipped out just as quick as we can.
And I got off track, but I wanted to get that in before I forgot. But what Austin is offering is for you guys listening and for just being a part of the Blind Hogs family. When you go to checkout, if you're on his website, when it says at the end, if you enter in, it says that you have a code. Apply it now. If you enter in BHA Blind Hog Adventures, the 3 initials 10, you will save 10% off of your entire order on the Redline Rigs website. So that's a thank you for that Austin's done, and we were able to do that and pass along, and we're happy to do it, and we appreciate you doing that. Like I said, all of our local tackle shops are doing it, and if your local tackle shop, if you're listening to this wherever and they do not carry it, hey, tell them you want it there, because you want to be able to get it when you need it, and not so it's great to do that.
That's our biggest friend is whenever I go to retailers and try to talk to them, but the biggest influence that can happen and the biggest thing that can help us out is you go into your local tackle shops and telling them that you want to see them there. It's one thing for me to go and tell them they need them, but it's another thing for their customers and their clientele to come in there and tell them that they want them. So yeah.
Well, guys, I can't thank you enough. One thing that we kind of talked about we were going to do on every episode when Gaston and I were talking was, I said I always want to leave us on some type of we believe in the Lord. The Lord brought us together in this place and at this time, and I always try to leave you with some type of inspiring quote or a scripture or something. And so one of the most simple ones that we can start off, and I think the best way we can start off episode 1 is just to remind you of a scripture. And if you've never heard it, it's John 3:16, and it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever shall believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life." So if you're out there and you don't know if somebody cares about you or loves you, I want you to know, first off, we are here. You can comment, you can message us. We are glad to talk with you, but I want you to know, most of all, God loves you. He wants a relationship with you, and we just want you to know that we are totally appreciative of what he has done for us and what he's done for you, and we thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to come back next month around the first of the month. Share this if you will. Make sure you like, you subscribe, pass it along. But we just want to say thank you for listening. We can't wait to talk to you on our next episode. This is Corey Furlow signing out.
Gaston King.
When that sun comes peeking in under that Carolina sky in the Lord's creation, ripping some lips on my favorite waters, taking blind hog adventures with some of my best buddies.